You've tried many different techniques and none of them seem to work for you. You've tried making a list and checking it twice. You've tried looking in the mirror, reciting affirmations to yourself, doing robotic affirmations. You've tried doing EFT, tapping yourself all over, making a script. You've telling yourself stories. You've done the vision board. You've done all of that stuff and none of it works. And my next question is, have you also been diagnosed or do you suspect that you might have ASD, autism spectrum disorder, or Asperger's, or PTSD, or OCD, or ADHD, or any of these many different conditions? You could be traumatized in a way and you've never been diagnosed as PTSD. I've been there. Later this month, if my insurance finally comes through, I'm supposed to have my final diagnosis with a psychologist as to whether or not I have Asperger's. And years ago, I was diagnosed with PTSD. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Teo Thomas, and this is the Robustry Channel, where we help you to level up, to live a more robust life, the life that you deserve. You're just struggling with it. You feel like you're ready to give up. You figure to hell with it. It doesn't work. But before I continue on, do you have yourself a hot drink? Well, let's stop and talk about a drink for a moment here. No, I'm sorry. I'm just making fun of the YouTubers who do that. It really irritates me when people, in fact, it just pisses me off when people waste my time and they've got to have their drink and they show you that they're drinking it and do you have your drink? And they spend a minute and a half to 5 minutes, some even go 10 minutes on their intro without ever getting to the freaking point. And I say that because I'm not going to waste your time. I'm 2 minutes into this and I'm not going to waste your time. And that could be a trait of Asperger's. You see, I like to get right to the point. I like to get right down to the nitty-gritty. And so what I'm saying here is if you've been having difficulty with manifestation, and I've had that. I mean, I've done lists that everything on the list worked out perfect. And then I've done lists where I've waited months and years and nothing, not a single little thing happened on the list, not even somebody giving me a free cup of coffee. So my perspective here is that let me start with the PTSD because that one I know what that I'm absolutely clear on what that is like. With PTSD, you become pessimistic. You might not want to. You think, you think you're optimistic, but in the back of your mind, you're constantly recycling how you don't trust people, how you don't trust the world. You might not even trust yourself. And that is hell because you're trapped inside of your own mind. And no matter what you try to do, no matter what people say, I went through therapy. I went through as much therapy as my insurance would pay for, and it didn't work. For me, what it really took was I had to just simply cut it off. I stopped it right there and I said, you know what? My insurance stopped paying for the therapy. And I said, you know what? I've got to find my own way out. And I cut off everything that brought me down to that point. And I would say that for the most part, I am like between 80 to 90% out of that mud hole called PTSD. Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm perfect. There are times like coming up to Christmas because uh, part of my trauma is related to the period between uh, Thanksgiving and Christmas that I really go through. I go through hell. It's like I'm going through the valley of death, and it's hard to pull out of that. And so it's really hard for me when I get into those states, which aren't often anymore, but it's really hard for me to claw my way out of that, but I will not succumb to it. I will not give in to it. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, especially if you have PTSD, it can be hard to manifest. It can be very difficult to manifest. And people tell you, hey, manifest $1 million, manifest a Mercedes, a Ferrari, or whatever. And you're thinking, I can't even freaking manifest a cup of coffee. And then you go through these other periods where things start to work out and it's going really, really well. And you're like, wow, I really can do this. And then the back of your mind, that demon comes back and it starts telling you, it's going to fail again. It's going to fail. All of this is going to be taken away. And eventually you start listening to it or you start watching the news or listening to people talking about the news, and it F's you up and you come tumbling down again and you lost it all again. I've been there. I've been there many times. And it's sort of like it's a bad habit. I would say it's more like a drug habit or like a drinking problem. Now, as far as Asperger's goes, Aspies, we think differently. I mean, like right now, I think I'm smiling. I think I sound very positive and upbeat, but if I look at my face on the screen, I realize I don't have a smile on my face. And the other thing that we do is we tend to mask. So, or shut down, or some people go into meltdown. And when I was a child, I used to melt down a lot because I had a strong sense of justice. And I always thought that right was right and wrong was wrong, and wrong should be punished, or at least the person who's doing the wrong should be made to know that they're doing wrong. And many times, even though I didn't do wrong, I got blamed. So, uh, and I learned to cope with the injustice by shutting down. And I would avoid people. And this again goes back to a trauma that happened between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which I don't feel comfortable with talking about right now because it was actually a series of traumas over years. But when our family would get together for Christmas or even Thanksgiving, I would be all excited to get together with them. And about an hour into it, I would just disappear. I would go into my room or I would go to a quiet part of the house or I would just go out. And the reason why I think that affects there's so many traits of Asperger's that, like there's the literalism. For example, when I've studied Neville Goddard, I started studying Neville Goddard back around 2000, between 2006 and 2008. Um, when he would say that you should, at the end of the day, you're lying in bed trying to fall asleep, rewind your day backwards, play the day backwards and correct the things that didn't go the way you wanted them to. I would literally do that, and it would keep me awake for hours because I would literally, in my mind, I would see the events going backwards to the starting point of that event, then I would play it forwards, and if I realized I forgot some aspect, I would have to do it again, and this is sort of like ADHD, or is it? No, OCD. Now, I don't have OCD, but I could easily see where this would really trip somebody up who has OCD because I would keep doing that again and again on one scene until okay, now I've got everything. Oh, I went over there and I switched on the light. I forgot to do that last time. I got to play that back. Now I went over and switched on the light. Just stupid stuff like that. I didn't realize that you just kind of, now I'm trying to clarify because I'm back in that mindset again of actually playing it backwards. So let me give you an example. This is how I used to do it. And I hope you don't mind. I give my own examples. Because I can't give your example, I don't know your example, but I can give you my example. Uh, I would be lying in bed, and I'd be thinking, "Okay, I'm lying in bed now, and what did I do just before I got into bed? Okay, well, I pulled back the covers, and then before that, I switched off the light, and before that, I opened the door to my bedroom, and before that, I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and before that, I was in the kitchen doing this, and then oh, wait, I forgot. I went pee in the bathroom. Okay, so I would pulled back the covers, switched off the light. Oh, wait. I got into bed. Before that, I pulled back the covers, and before that, I walked across the room, and before that, I switched off the light, and before that, I opened the door, and then I was in the bathroom, and then I brushed my teeth, and before that, I went pee, and then before that, I was in the kitchen, and I would do that to an excruciatingly painful way, and I did that for years, and I was like, "How does anybody get anything out of this?" By the time I'd finally get to the scene, and sometimes I would cheat and I would jump to the scene that I wanted to get to because I would burn myself out. But by that point, I had no energy left. I couldn't revise the scene. And that's just one of those things that some people have, whether it's OCD, where you really have to play it over and over again. And if you did something 10 times or 25 times, because that was your lucky number, whatever, And I've known people like that, so I can only speak from observation. If you had to do that again and again and again and again, you're never gonna get to the point. And what I've learned is I just finally said, "Screw it. I'm just going to play this quickly backwards, and I'm just going to get to the scene that I want to change." And when I would get to the scene, I would just minimize it as much as possible, especially if somebody got really angry with me and wanted and was accusing me of something or attacking me. I would just simply sum it up in this. I would be saying, whatever their opinion is of me is none of my business. And I'm past it. It makes a huge difference. But you see, this is an example of why it can be difficult for people with ASD, Asperger's, excuse me, autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's, OCD, PTSD. This is why it can be very difficult to manifest. And nobody tells you this. Nobody tells you this. And I know some of these people out there teaching the manifestation, they have it. Especially when you see the people who are talking like this, they have no expression on their face. Their voice is very gentle. They can put you to sleep in just a couple of seconds. Some of them I actually listen to just to put myself to sleep. Video's only 8 minutes long, and I'm out like that because of that tone. But they never address it. That's fine. That's what this channel is here for, robustry. So if you're struggling with these kind of, whatever you want to call it, perspectives or whatever, I don't like to consider it to be a disease or a condition or anything like that because that makes you feel limited and trapped. I like to consider it a perspective. Because I believe you can overcome anything once you shift perspective. If you're constantly looking at things from this perspective, then shift to that perspective and you'll see it in a different way. Sort of like my coffee mug here. If you look at it from this perspective, you don't know if it's empty or full. You look at it from this perspective and you know. Anyway, that's the purpose of this channel. I'm Teo Thomas, and this is the Robustry channel, where we help you to level up and live a more robust life. And the focus of this channel is helping people who have that struggle. Thank you for watching. If you got something out of this, please give a thumbs up. If you have questions or if you would like to share your own experience, please leave it in the comments down below. And subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when new content comes up. Thank you.